Good morning, everybody. Kuru Paul here. In the last lesson, I talked about how to use the verb querer in two forms, quiero and quieres, to kind of get a leg up on, get around conjugation and make complete sentences about things that I want and you want. Well, in this video, I'm going to be taking that to the next step, and we're going to be introducing you to the Spanish verb, the mega verb, poder. To be able to. This is a fantastic verb. It's going to be one of your most useful verbs in the Spanish language. We're going to be talking about it in the present tense today, but eventually you're going to be using it in the past and even in the conditional. It's fantastic. So to keep things simple, we're going to be using it just like we did querer, and we're only going to be conjugating it in the first and second person, which is the informal you. So we have yo puedo, I can, and tú puedes, you can. And just like we did with quiero and quieres, we can leave off the yo and tú because it's clear from the verb conjugation who the subject of the sentence is. And that's unusual about Spanish, right? That we can actually leave the subject off and just go by the verb. Now, when we translate it in English, we have to put that subject back on because, well, it wouldn't make any sense in English. You can use this verb to make sentences very similar to what we did before. I think you can do this one by yourself. Can I confirm the reservation? Puedo confirmar la reserva, or puedo confirmar la reservación. Remember, we talked about that in some places la reserva is going to be the one you're using, and in some you may see la reserva and reservación. Now, you won't see reservación in Spain, so if you're studying European Spanish, just strike that one from your mind. Just get it out of there. This verb is fantastic when you want to ask if somebody can do something for you. Can you confirm my reservation? Now, we haven't talked about the possessives, so I'm going to give that to you. Mi reservación or mi reserva. You can do the rest, right? Puedes confirmar mi reservación or mi reserva. You got it? Just popping things together. We can work this one in with some of the vocabulary I covered in some earlier lessons, and you may not remember it all, but we just got to remind you. How about this one? You think you can translate this one? Can you work tomorrow? Puedes trabajar mañana? Puedes trabajar mañana? How about this one? When can you work? Remember, we talked about question words. ¿Cuándo puedes trabajar? ¿Cuándo puedes trabajar? How about this one? When can you study Spanish with me? You might have to think for a second, but we're still just using the same patterns and plugging things in. ¿Cuándo puedes estudiar español conmigo? ¿Cuándo puedes estudiar español conmigo? Let's answer that one. I can study Spanish with you tomorrow. ¿Puedo estudiar español contigo mañana? Did you remember those? The conmigo, with me, and contigo? See, we're just through repetition. They're going to stick in there, right? How about this one? Can you study with me today? ¿Puedes estudiar conmigo hoy? ¿Puedes estudiar conmigo hoy? Did you remember hoy? So far we've been just saying a lot of mañana tomorrow and hoy today. We really need to work in some more time expressions. I told you I'm going to do a video dedicated to it, but I don't want to overwhelm you just in that. So let's get into days of the week. El lunes, el martes, el miércoles, el jueves, el viernes, el sábado, and el domingo. Now you may notice that they have a definite article in front of them. I'm really saying the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday. That's an important distinction between English and Spanish, because in English we ask, can you work on Monday? But in Spanish they're asking, can you work the Monday? Knowing that's the pattern, go ahead and translate that one. Can you work on Monday? ¿Puedes trabajar el lunes? ¿Puedes trabajar el lunes? And the person's like, yes, I can work on Monday. Do that one. Sí, puedo trabajar el lunes. What if you want to answer, no, but I can work on Wednesday? Remember but? We talked about it when we were doing pronunciation. No, pero puedo trabajar el miércoles. Go ahead and try this one. Can you study Spanish with me on Thursday? ¿Puedes estudiar español conmigo el jueves? No, but I can study with you on Sunday. No, pero puedo estudiar contigo el domingo. Now, if you want a reference that you can do something, say, every Saturday or say Saturdays, like we do in English, you can do that in Spanish. You just have to pluralize the day of the week. And you have to also make sure that the definite article agrees. So if I ask the person, can you work on Saturdays? That would be, Puedes trabajar los sábados. Puedes trabajar los sábados. And see, it's los sábados. We had to put los and add an S to sábados. Now, the days of the week that already end with an S, you don't have to change that part. You just have to change the definite article. I can work Mondays. Puedo trabajar los lunes. Puedo trabajar los lunes. Here's a useful little three-word phrase that you can work into your Spanish, and it fits this lesson perfectly. Pero no puedo. But I can't. I want to work Saturdays, but I can't. Quiero trabajar los sábados, pero no puedo. You try this one. I want to study with you, but I can't. Quiero estudiar contigo, pero no puedo. Let's go ahead and respond to that one. So when can you study with me? See that so up there? There's some different ways we can say so in Spanish depending where it is in the sentence. To start out a sentence, one of the great ones is going to be entonces. Entonces. So when can you study with me? Go ahead and do that. Entonces, ¿cuándo puedes estudiar conmigo? Entonces, ¿cuándo puedes estudiar conmigo? You know, when it comes to your TION, CION cognate trick, you may have come across some words that you're like, yeah, that one's okay, but I don't really see that it's going to be that useful. And sometimes those words actually are useful because they're used more in Spanish than, we would use them in English. And definitely one of those words is from collaboration, okay? Colaboración, and the verb being colaborar, to collaborate. We use collaboration and collaborate in English, but not to the extent it's used in Spanish. In Spanish, they're going to use it a lot like when you're working with somebody on a project, where we would say, do you want to work with me on this video? Do you want to work with me on this project? Trabajar, trabajar, trabajar. And you can say that, but it's more common to say, do you want to collaborate with me on this project? See if you can do this one. I want to collaborate with you, but I can't. Quiero colaborar contigo, pero no puedo. I like that. Pero no puedo. You can stick that on everything. The words collaboration and collaborate are so prevalent in Spanish that many businesses actually refer to their employees as collaborators, colaboradores, and you probably see colaborar right in there. And that's actually another pattern, an extra step that you can do from your TION, CION cognate, that with some of the verbs you create, you can actually create something like this, like collaborator. And it's not hard to do. You're just taking your verb, and in this case, colaborar, drop your R, and for males, you're just adding DOR, colaborador, and for females, DORA, colaboradora. So that's how the pattern works. So see if you can do this one. Administrator. What do you get? Administrador and administradora. How do we get that? Well, first we thought administration. That becomes administración. We make that a verb, administrar. We drop our R, put a DOR, administrador. For females, administradora. What about this one? Investigator. You got that one? Investigador. And a female investigator? Investigadora. And you know the steps. I don't have to go through them again. So let's talk about how you ask somebody, can you help me with something? Because that's a super useful expression. And we're actually going to be working in that me part that we haven't talked about before. And this is where we start to get into direct and indirect object pronouns, which can be complicated in Spanish, but don't worry, we're going to be breaking that down into some simple patterns. There's actually two ways to phrase this. Take a look at the screen. The first one has the me right up there in front. Me puedes ayudar con, can you help me with whatever? And the other one has the me attached to the infinitive. Puedes ayudarme con whatever. There's no change in meaning, and you can choose whichever one you like. This is how the rule works. When we're dealing with our direct and indirect object pronouns, and that's what that me is, the rule says that they either have to go before the conjugated verb, right, which is what we have there. We have a conjugated verb, we always do. Or it can be attached to an infinitive if there is one. You won't always have one. In this case, we do. So we have two options. I got to tell you that most English speakers prefer that second one because it's closer to English. They like the word order better. Puedes ayudarme con whatever. Mi computadora. Can you help me with my computer? Now in Spain, computer's going to have a different word. El ordenador. And in Colombia, it's very similar to computadora, but they make it masculine. They say el computador. Just an example how vocabulary can vary by country So I try to keep things as general as possible in these videos, and when we hit a common word that people are probably going to talk about, like computer, and there's some differences, I'm going to point those out. So I want you to practice both of these forms today, and the reason is there may not be an infinitive in the future. Now there is now, because we're using this pattern of a sentence starter, like I want something to happen, can something happen? But in the future, you may just have a conjugated verb, and you're going to have to know where to put these direct and indirect object pronouns. So get in the habit of just practicing both now. Let's try this one. Can you help me with the project? Let's stick that may up there in front, okay? ¿Me puedes ayudar con el proyecto? And now let's do it the other way, where we're going to attach it to the infinitive, the unconjugated verb. ¿Puedes ayudarme con el proyecto? So let's play with that verb, ayudar, a little bit more, to help. Let's say I want to ask somebody, can you help me to do something? For example, can you help me decorate the house? Now, with the verb ayudar, if we're going to stick an infinitive in after it, there's actually going to be a little a there. We have to insert it there. With some verbs, you can just attach infinitives, like with querer, right? We're like, quiero hacer something. We want to do something. And with poder. But with some verbs, you're going to have to know the preposition that's there. And we talked about that with aprender a plus infinitive, right? To learn to do something. Well, ayudar falls in that category. So right on your word list, write ayudar a plus infinitive so you don't forget. So go ahead and try to translate this one. Can you help me decorate the house? All right, let's do it the first way. We're going to put the me up front before the conjugated verb. ¿Me puedes ayudar a decorar la casa? ¿Me puedes ayudar a decorar la casa? So now we're going to attach it to an infinitive, but we have two, right? So which one should it be? Well, it should be attached to ayudar because that's what you're asking for, to help me to do something else. ¿Puedes ayudarme a decorar la casa? ¿Puedes ayudarme a decorar la casa? Did you get it? So go ahead and try this one. Can you help me verify the information? Now we're going to be doing it both ways, right? ¿Me puedes ayudar a verificar la información? ¿Me puedes ayudar a verificar la información? Did you remember the little a in there? Good. Now let's do the second one, and we're going to attach it. You know where to attach it. ¿Puedes ayudarme a verificar la información? ¿Puedes ayudarme a verificar la información? When it comes to word order in Spanish, you're going to find that it doesn't match English a lot of the time, and that can be frustrating. The good news is it does follow set patterns, like this one. It's a set rule you can remember and then use. So I guess that's it for this one. Thank you very much for being members of the Kiru Spanish crew, and until next time, hasta luego.